Good afternoon, party people, and how are you? Just had a quiet moment now where I've managed to break up for the umpteenth fight of today, and we've only been home in an hour and a half, and we've got a whole weekend with children in the house under quarantine. I say we, I. Today, I want to talk to you about forgiveness. Now, one of the main misconceptions of forgiveness is that you're letting someone get away with something. Okay. I personally struggled with this concept myself for years and years. The only way I could make sense of this was through intensive psychotherapy. I won't lie, I have struggled with mental illness, depression, and PTSD probably since I was a child due to growing up in the environment that I did. It suddenly got to the age of sort of mid-30s and everything went tits up on an epic scale, which kind of forced me. That also coincided with becoming a mother as well. That wasn't the reason why, but it all came to a head at once. But it forced me into fixing things that hadn't quite aligned for me. When I was in my early 40s, I went on EMDR therapy. It's eye movement desensitization reprogramming. It seems very technical when you actually explain what it is. It's also quite hard to believe that it actually works, but trust me, from having 20 years plus of couch counselling to CBT to DBT to getting pissed for years on end to doing it various other toxic ways which ain't going to help. I was back to square one and in a bigger, deeper mess than ever. But this time I was a mum, so this was like really important that I didn't impact those little lives in front of me that I hold so dear. EMDR is basically you focus your thoughts on the memory at the time and you take yourself back to that memory. It can be very, very distressing, and the therapist in front of you will move fingers across your eyes. I won't go into it now, obviously, because it's not something a state I want to put you into. But YouTube has many videos on EMDR, and it's very helpful. Through the process of EMDR, I learnt and understood that forgiveness starts with you. In a lot of my videos on this channel, I talk about it starting, continuing and ending with you. And how when you need answers, you need to go within yourself. And how you need to look at your intuition, your trust, okay? And help putting over sort of desire as to things that you need. Forgiveness. I don't think there's anybody out there, if but a few, that haven't had a troubled past in some way or another, especially when you get to our age, mid-40s, or even certainly a long time before then. And we all have baggage to carry, some of us more extreme than others. But if you don't deal with it, if you don't feel it to heal it, it comes back and it bites you on the bum. It can lay dormant for decades. It's a bit of a bitch like that. But one of the main things is forgiveness. And before you all start getting out of your pram, it's not forgiveness for the perpetrator that hurt you. It begins with forgiving yourself. I'll explain just gently a little bit more. You've had a bad childhood, okay? Domestic violence, sexual abuse, and or bad relationships, bad friendships. You're at a pivotal point in your life, you just seem to be wheel spinning in mud. What I was taught to do was to go back and speak to my younger self. And I was asked by my therapist, what would you say to your younger self if you could say anything? Now, after various boxes of tissues, various inhaler pulls because of the hyperventilation, and the extreme distress because you're reliving it, because you're really feeling it to heal it, I actually told my younger self that it was okay, it wasn't my fault that any of this was happening to me. And it was just an unfortunate situation, and that I would be okay, and that I would get myself out of it, because I then went back as my older self and rescued my younger self. And so made peace with myself in my head. Because in my adolescent years, if I was upset, I would hurt myself. Whereas as an older woman now, when I'm upset, I look after myself. When your children are upset, you don't hurt them, do you? You take care of them. You give them a hug, you wipe their nose, you wipe their tears. Sometimes they get an ice cream if they're lucky. And you take care of them. So why when you're younger yourself, and why when you go through adolescence, and why when you go into your early sort of adult years, do you harm yourself when you're suffering a consequence of something that wasn't your fault in the first place? The people that did you wrong are never going to apologise. They're never going to see the error of their ways. They're never going to justify it. In rare cases they do, but it is rare, let's be honest. So I wouldn't even waste your energy on looking for that approval in other relationships or from the direct perpetrator, because it's not going to come. But they will come and go. They'll die. You'll never see them again. That'll be it. Estrangement or death. But you will always be with yourself. And the person that you need to forgive primarily is yourself. Forgive yourself for not knowing at the time. Forgive yourself just for not being old enough to know that it was wrong. Just be kind to yourself. Treat yourself as if you were your own child. If your child fell over and cut their knee, you wouldn't kick them and lock them in a room, would you? No, you'd wipe the knee, you'd give them a cuddle, you'd tell them that you love them. Why should you be any different? Yeah. Be kind to yourself. Yeah. We've all made bad choices on from that, but they are directly trying to seek approval again from those times in our life that we didn't get approval. Forgive yourself for that as well, because for those bad choices that you made later on in your life, they're a direct result of the product of what happened to you before. So if you go right back to the core thing, your first memory of where it all started to go tits up, or the very first memory where you felt less than enough, not cared for, neglected, not happy, look back on that and go back as your adult self to that younger self, as if that younger self were your child, and look at that situation and understand. And I can tell you most times out of 10, it wasn't your fault. It was a product of your parent or your carer, your caregivers, own issues within themselves they hadn't fixed. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying you have to forgive them. I'm just saying that's an explanation. Let them do what they need to do, but please go back and forgive yourself. Once you forgive yourself for not knowing, you forgive yourself in turn for the bad choices you made afterwards, because you understand you were just a symptom of circumstances. And then you understand how not to do it, because these situations taught you relevant lessons on how not to be. So walk forward with peace in your heart, because you know that you love yourself and you know it wasn't your fault, and you know that you can go back to that little person at any time as your adult self, take their hand and say, come on, gotcha, it's all right now. You can be your own Mary Poppins. You can go back and rescue yourself. And I always used to pray when I was little that Mary Poppins would come and rescue me, especially at Christmas when there were fights and rows in the house and there was too much alcohol going around. And the inevitable used to happen. And I used to pray on the TV that Mary Poppins would come and rescue me and whisk me away. And during these sessions, 40 years later, I actually cried at that recollection, that thought. But then there was a bittersweet feeling, because I am Mary Poppins. And although I was late, little girl, I did come back and I did get you. And I've got you good and proper. And all of you, please, treat yourself and your past memories as if you were your own blessed, beloved child. And then that way, you can really start to navigate with clear skies and a firm path. And I hope that does explain forgiveness in a way that you're able to accept and comprehend, because that's how I accept forgiveness. So I don't forgive the people that did what they did to me. And I'm not going to be hypocritical and say I'm glad for those lessons, because I wasn't. But either way, I can't change it, and I was given those lessons. But what I am glad for is the absolutely wonderful therapist who taught me very gently the understanding of the lesson of forgiveness, thus giving me clear navigation of my path for the rest of my life to be the best of my life. And so with love and light and a pure heart, I forgive myself. And I forgive my past, because it wasn't my fault and I didn't know. But now, as Mary Poppins, an older woman, a mother myself, and my own parent, I am my own parent. I walk forward with confidence, conviction, and love in my heart. And I hope that justifies forgiveness and helps you in some way. Blessings and love to you. Thank you. Peace out.